Okay, so you're here because you want to sharpen your martial arts skills, and you're smart enough to know that strength and conditioning, they play a huge role.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be real, you don't have time to become a total fitness guru on top of everything else. That's where we come in.
Exactly. Today, we're diving headfirst into Super Strength and Endurance for Martial Arts by Bud Jeffries.
Right.
Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to understanding the training principles and methods that are going to give you the most bang for your buck in your martial arts journey.
And this isn't just another fitness book, is it? It seems really geared towards, well, combat effectiveness.
Definitely. It covers everything from fundamental strength stuff to some really interesting, kind of less common training tools.
So our mission basically is simple. We're pulling out the crucial insights, the stuff that really matters for you to understand and maybe start applying right away.
Let's do it.
So, okay, let's get right to it then. When we talk about strength and conditioning for martial arts, where do we even begin with this book?
Well, what's fascinating is that the book starts with a bit of a perspective shift. It argues that martial arts itself is a form of strength training.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, the stances, the movements, the techniques you practice in your art, they're all building functional strength.
That's a really interesting way to frame it. And it immediately leads into this concept he calls freshness functional training, which sounds like it's pushing back against some mainstream fitness ideas.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the author makes a really clear distinction. He urges martial artists to move away from what he calls stupid myths and like a bodybuilding-centric approach to training.
Right, the whole beach muscles thing.
Exactly. The core idea here is that your training should focus on movements that are functional, meaning they directly enhance your ability to perform in a fight.
Okay.
It's about training for what you actually need in combat, not just how you look in the mirror.
Right, so instead of chasing bigger biceps just for the sake of it, you're focusing on, like, how to generate more power in a cross or stay rock solid stable when you're on one leg.
Now, the book then introduces ultimate movements. That sounds pretty intense. What makes these movements so, well, ultimate for martial artists?
These are sort of fundamental exercises that the author believes are particularly effective at developing the specific kind of strength martial artists require.
Okay.
And the magic, he suggests, really happens in how you combine them through something called the Anderson mixing principle.
The Anderson mixing principle. Okay. Sounds kind of scientific. What's the core idea behind that?
It's about strategically combining different types of strength training in your routine.
How do you mean?
Well, the book suggests that mixing, say, explosive movements with heavier, slower lifts, for example, can give you better results than just sticking to one style of training.
Oh. Yeah.
Think of it as hitting your strength goals from multiple angles, engaging different muscle fibers, different energy systems, in a way that makes you a more well-rounded and capable fighter.
That makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't want to be all fast twitch muscle with no endurance or the other way around.
And this principle then leads into the idea of chain training, right? How does that build on this mixing idea?
Right. Chain training basically takes that Anderson mixing principle and applies it to the tools you use.
Oh, okay. The equipment.
Yeah. So instead of just relying on barbells or just body weight, you incorporate a whole variety of implements, body weight exercises, kettlebells, barbells, even strongman tools sometimes.
Wow.
The goal is comprehensive development, making sure you're not neglecting any aspect of strength and conditioning that could help your martial arts.
So you're essentially creating a stronger, more robust chain of strength by using all these different links. Makes sense. Now, the book gives some specific examples of these ultimate movements. Let's dive into a few. The one-arm press gets mentioned, and he emphasizes a natural style. What's different about this natural approach?
So the natural style one-arm press focuses on doing the movement, using pretty much only the strength of your shoulder and upper body. You minimize or ideally eliminate any leg drive or heave.
Okay, so pure upper body push.
Yeah, there might be a slight lean, sort of following the natural strength curve of the shoulder as you press the weight up, but it's about pure, isolated upper body strength in that pressing motion.
And the benefit for a martial artist.
Well, the key takeaway is this builds unilateral shoulder strength, which is directly relevant to things like throwing powerful single strikes or maybe maintaining control in certain grappling situations.
Got it. Isolating the pressing muscles on one side without cheating with the rest of your body. Then there's the one-arm row. The book highlights variations in pulling angles. Why is that so important?
Yeah, what's interesting here is the emphasis on developing a really complete and balanced back
Right?
by pulling at different angles, maybe towards your head, then your shoulder, your waist, your hip. You're hitting different parts of your back muscles.
Okay.
So while pulling to your lower abdomen might be where you're strongest, training those other angles fills in the gaps. It ensures you have strength across a wider range of pulling motions.
Which is crucial.
For grappling, definitely. Controlling an opponent or even generating power in certain kinds of strikes. So the key insight is, don't just row in one direction. Vary your pull to build a truly functional and resilient back.
That makes a lot of sense. You're rarely just pulling someone straight towards you in a real situation. The single leg deadlift also gets a mention, with options for different gear. Why is this such a crucial movement for martial artists?
Oh, the single leg deadlift is fantastic. It builds unilateral strength, it's strength on one side of the body, but also balance and stability. Big time.
Right, you spend a lot of time on one leg in martial arts.
Exactly. During kicks, stances, transitions, this exercise directly strengthens those stabilizing muscles and improves your balance. Makes you more grounded, less likely to get swept or knocked off balance.
And you can use different things.
Yeah, the book points out you can use kettlebells, dumbbells, or a barbell. And you can even change the leg position, like stiff-legged or bent-legged, to target different aspects of strength and flexibility.
So the core benefit is better balance, stability, single leg strength, all vital stuff.
Absolutely.
Versatility definitely seems to be a recurring theme here. We also see one-arm snatch and one-arm deadlift listed. Those sound like they require a lot of power and coordination.
For sure. These unilateral versions of classic explosive lifts build not just strength, but also that explosive power, coordination, and core stability.
Okay.
Think about the rotational power in a punch or a kick. These exercises really help develop that kind of thing.
Right. And the rack overhead squat is another interesting one. How does that translate? It sounds like a really tough lift.
It is. Holding weight overhead while you squat.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a serious challenge to your core.
I bet.
That overhead rack position demands significant core stability and upper back strength, on top of the leg power, obviously.
And that helps how?
Well, it translates to better posture, better balance, and the ability to generate force from a stable base, which is crucial in so many martial arts techniques, whether you're throwing a strike or trying to stop a takedown.
So building that core to limb stability. Got it. And finally, the bench press is mentioned, but as a one-arm dumbbell variation, why focus on one arm there?
Again, it really comes back to that unilateral strength and stability.
Since you're rarely pushing with both arms equally and symmetrically in a fight.
Exactly. A one-arm dumbbell bench press forces your core muscles to work much, much harder to stabilize your body compared to a traditional barbell bench press where the weight is balanced. This more closely mimics the demands of many martial arts movements, where you're generating force with one limb, like a push kick maybe, or single arm block.
Okay, so the takeaway is building pushing power while also really strengthening your core's ability to resist rotation.
Spot on.
Now, the book also touches upon partial training, throwing out some pretty impressive numbers like a 1,000-pound partial deadlift. Whoa! What's the benefit of training with only a partial range of motion?
Yeah, partial training, where you're only working through a segment of the full movement, lets you handle significantly heavier loads than you could otherwise lift through a full range.
No. Okay, but why?
For martial artists, this can be a strategic tool. You can overload muscles in specific ranges of motion that are particularly relevant to your techniques, or maybe push past plateaus in strength.
Like strengthening the lockout of a punch.
Exactly, or the top portion of a lift. However, it's crucial to remember this should supplement, not replace, your full range of motion training. You still need that for complete development in joint health.
Right.
So think of it as a specialized tool maybe for building peak strength in specific crucial positions.
Okay, so it's a specific tool for specific strength gains. Got it. Now, shifting gears a bit, the book moves beyond basic strengths into areas like endurance and specialized training. It talks about a second level or burst level of strength. What's the difference between that and the foundational strength we've been discussing?
This second level emphasizes not just having strength, but being able to apply it rapidly and explosively.
Ah, okay. Speed and power.
Yeah, it's about training with intent and speed. Think of it as bridging the gap between your maximum strength, like your 1-rep max, and the ability to generate that force quickly for strikes, takedowns, or even just rapid movements within a grappling exchange.
Right.
It's about turning your strength into usable power.
That makes sense. It's the difference between being able to, like, grind out a heavy lift slowly and being able to throw a fast, powerful punch.
Exactly.
And then we get into endurance level conditioning, What are some of the key aspects of that for martial artists, according to the book?
Well, the book really highlights bodyweight exercises as a fundamental part of endurance conditioning for martial artists.
Like what?
Things like squats, push-ups, various abdominal exercises, different chin-up variations. They can be performed for higher repetitions and longer durations.
Right.
This builds cardiovascular fitness and muscular endurance that's specific to the demands of a fight or a long training session, often without the added bulk that might hinder agility.
So the core idea is using your own body to build lasting stamina. Pretty classic, effective, and you don't need a fancy gym.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some of these specialized training tools. Kettlebells get a lot of attention. What are some of the key kettlebell exercises mentioned, and why are they particularly good for martial artists?
Yeah. Kettlebells are presented as a real cornerstone of the chain training, kind of integrating multiple aspects of fitness. The book specifically highlights the kettlebell uppercut.
Uppercut, how does that work?
It describes it as incredibly powerful for fighters. It uses a swinging motion, but with an underhanded grip, engaging not just the arm, but the entire body, adding significant rotational power to a strike.
Interesting.
The kettlebell swing is also really emphasized as superior for martial artists, focusing on that explosive hip snap.
Right, that hip drive.
Yeah, the same movement you use for powerful strikes and efficient grappling transitions. And then kettlebell complexes,
What are those?
where you string together exercises like presses, cleans, snatches, squats, high pulls. They're recommended for a comprehensive workout that builds strength, endurance, and coordination all at once. So for the listener, kettlebells offer a way to develop integrated strength and power that translates directly to their techniques.
That's the idea.
That hip snap in the swing is so key for generating force in so many martial arts movements. What about Indian clubs? They seem a bit like a throwback, maybe? But the book includes them. What's the rationale there?
Yeah, they do look a bit old school. But what's fascinating about Indian clubs is their unique ability to work multiple aspects of physical fitness at the same time.
Like what?
The book points out they improve your grip strength, shoulder strength and mobility, flexibility throughout the upper body, and overall coordination.
Okay.
It mentions basic movements like overhead swings, around the head swings, front swings, diagonal swings, and these lever variations. These can enhance joint health and stability in ways that maybe traditional weightlifting doesn't fully address.
So kind of like building resilient and mobile shoulders.
Exactly, which is crucial for both striking and grappling. Think of it as a way to bulletproof those shoulders.
Interesting, almost like dynamic, warm-up, and strengthening rolled into one. Sledgehammer swinging is also in the mix. That just looks like a great stress reliever. But what are the specific martial arts benefits?
Yeah, probably is good stress relief. But the book keeps it straightforward. Even the basic overhead sledgehammer swing is a fantastic way to build muscle, endurance, and power.
How so?
It's particularly effective for developing rotational strength and core stability, which are just fundamental for generating power in loads of martial arts techniques.
Yeah.
From powerful strikes to throws and takedowns.
Right.
Plus, it's a great way to build grip and forearm strength, too.
So for the listener, it's about building that explosive rotational power and a really strong core. Definitely sounds like it engages the whole body in a powerful way. Now let's talk about cable training. The book mentions a 6-exercise upper body complex. What does that routine look like?
Okay, so this complex includes tricep extensions, chest presses, overhead pull-downs, one-arm presses curls, front pulls to chest, and bent over rows.
Quite a list.
Yeah, and the author emphasizes that cables are a phenomenal tool for developing both muscle and functional power in the upper body. They allow for smooth, consistent resistance through the whole range of motion.
Right.
And while this specific complex focuses on the upper body, he says the principles apply to lower body training as well.
So for the listener, cables offer a versatile way to build strength and control in movements that kind of mimic striking and grappling actions.
That's a good way to put it.
So it's about hitting a wide range of pushing and pulling movements for a well-rounded upper body workout with that consistent resistance. We also see mention of light barbell and dumbbell complexes. What are the examples given, and what are the benefits for martial artists?
Okay, the barbell complex listed is a sequence: clean, press, deadlift, bent row, upright row, and Zercher squat, performed for, say, sets of 5 to 20 repetitions.
That sounds tough.
It is. The book describes this as powerful conditioning that distributes the workload across the entire body. It builds strength, muscle, endurance, and significantly challenges your cardiovascular system all at the same time.
And the dumbbell one.
The dumbbell complex includes clean, press, windmill, swing, upright row, and bet row, which you can do with 1 or 2 dumbbells. The author suggests maybe adding single-leg squats and deadlifts to this for an even more comprehensive full-body circuit.
Wow.
These complexes are just fantastic for developing overall athleticism, coordination, and the ability to exert force repeatedly, which is crucial in a long fight.
So think of them as a time-efficient way to build a really broad base of fitness relevant to the demands of martial arts.
Exactly. Real bang for your buck.
These complexes sound like great time savers, hitting multiple muscle groups and energy systems at once. Now, grip strength, obviously crucial in so many martial arts. What are some of the specific grip training methods highlighted in the book?
Oh yeah, grip training gets a really dedicated and comprehensive section. The Dennis Rogers lever wrist curl, using an off-balance barbell or dumbbell, gets mentioned as a key exercise.
Why that one?
Apparently, it develops phenomenal grip, training the hand and fingers, wrist extension, and leverage all at the same time. Finger lifting with various tools like kettlebells and cables is recommended too, to specifically strengthen the finger tendons and develop that powerful sort of claw-like grip you need for grabbing and controlling an opponent.
Makes sense.
The farmer's walk is included for its benefits in overall strength and conditioning, but also for developing a powerful supporting grip, like for holding onto a G or maybe a limb. Towel or rope lifts are highlighted for building crescent grip and finger strength, which is directly relevant to gripping an opponent's clothing. And finally, thick bar lifting.
Using wider bars.
Yeah, using a barbell or dumbbell with a wider diameter. It works both your supporting and your pinching grip and trains the hand in a more open position, similar maybe to gripping an opponent's wrist.
Okay.
So the key insight here is that grip strength isn't just about squeezing hard. It involves different types of grip, and this book provides methods to train pretty much all of them.
That's a really thorough breakdown of grip training, covering all the different ways you need to be able to hold on. The book also touches on training the neck, abs, and calves. Why are these often overlooked areas so important for martial artists?
Well, the book emphasizes the importance of building a hulked-up neck, his words,
Yeah.
for its ability to absorb blows and resist neck injuries.
Yeah,
That can be critical in both striking and grappling arts.
definitely.
For abdominal training, it recommends exercises like the full contact twist for developing rotational power, crucial for strikes, then weight sit-ups or Roman chair variations for overall core strength, and the windmill.
The windmill.
Yeah, for strengthening the core, improving flexibility, and enhancing shoulder stability. And strong calves are highlighted for their vital role in maintaining a stable combat stance and facilitating quick, agile movement.
Right.
So for the listener, these areas contribute to your overall resilience, your power generation, and your agility in a fight.
Makes perfect sense. A strong foundation from the neck right down to the calves. In-art exercise is another term that caught my eye. What exactly does that entail?
This refers to training that specifically mimics the kind of isometric contractions you use in your actual martial arts techniques.
Okay. How?
The idea is to build strength in the exact positions and angles you might hold during grappling or even striking. So, for example, holding a specific grappling position against resistance, or doing wall punches, where you push against a solid surface to build isometric strength in your striking muscles.
Ah, okay.
This helps you develop strength in those crucial, often static positions where you might otherwise be weak. So the key is building strength exactly where you need it in your art.
So it's about building strength in the specific postures and ranges of motion you use when you're actually practicing your art. We also see sprinting and agility drills mentioned, with the example of a high knee agility run. Why is this kind of training so important?
Well, speed and agility are obviously fundamental, right? For effective footwork, evading attacks, creating openings for your own techniques.
Sure.
Sprinting develops explosive power in your legs, while agility drills like high knee runs improve your coordination, your balance, and your ability to change direction quickly and efficiently.
Which translates directly to
your ability to move effectively in a fight. So for the listener, these drills are about becoming a more elusive and dynamic fighter.
Absolutely. You can have all the strength in the world, but if you can't move quickly, it's not going to be very useful. Sandbag super training sounds pretty intense. What are some of the methods involved, and what are the benefits for martial artists?
Yeah, sandbags are presented as incredibly versatile tools for building functional strength, particularly, he says, for grappling arts.
How do you use them?
The book mentions various methods like simply lifting and carrying them, shouldering them, dragging them across the ground. even using them for cable-resisted pulls.
Cable-resisted pull.
Yeah, the cable-resisted sandbag pull in particular is highlighted for its effectiveness in building throwing power and rotational strength, mimicking the movements used in lots of throws and takedowns.
Right.
And the uneven shifting nature of the sandbag also forces your stabilizing muscles to work way harder.
Like wrestling a real person?
Kind of. So for you grapplers out there, sandbags offer a unique way to build that raw, functional strength needed for controlling and manipulating an opponent.
Sounds like a great way to develop that kind of awkward, real-world strength you need. And finally, Qigong breathing gets a mention. How does that fit into a strength and conditioning program for martial arts?
Yeah, the book includes a basic Qigong breathing exercise. It emphasizes slow, controlled breathing through the nose while moving the hands through specific patterns, often incorporating visualization.
And the benefit isn't pure strength then.
Right. While it might not directly build muscle strength in the traditional sense, the benefits are described as promoting overall well-being, enhancing focus, improving recovery, and potentially aiding in energy management. Think of it as a way to cultivate a calm and focused mind, which is just as important as physical strength in martial arts.
For sure. So it's about integrating the mental and physical aspects for better overall performance and recovery. Wow, that's a huge range of training methods and tools. Now, the book also delves into some key training principles that help you make sense of it all. Let's talk about frequency, duration, intensity, and volume. How does the author suggest we approach these?
Right, the classic variables.
Mm-hmm.
The book emphasizes that these four factors are really interconnected and need to be considered together.
How so?
It highlights that if you crank up the intensity of your workouts, you'll likely need to decrease the volume or maybe the frequency to allow for adequate recovery.
Makes sense.
It really stresses the importance of listening to your body and finding a balance that allows for consistent progress without, overtraining. There's no single one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on your individual goals, your training experience, how well your body recovers.
So the key is finding a sustainable balance for you. So it's not just about working harder, but working smarter and understanding how these elements interact. Building a base is another key principle mentioned. What does a solid base look like for a martial artist, according to this?
Building a base, according to the book, encompasses developing three key areas. Size, meaning sufficient muscle mass for your goals, not necessarily bodybuilding size.
Right.
Flexibility, allowing for full range of motion in your techniques.
Yeah.
And the intent of training.
Intent.
Yeah, that intent refers to having a really focused and purposeful approach to your workouts.
Yeah.
Knowing why you're doing each exercise and how it relates back to your martial arts.
Okay.
A solid base in these areas provides the foundation for more advanced and specialized training later on. It reduces your risk of injury and maximizes your potential for progress. So think of it as laying the groundwork for long-term development.
Yeah, you can't expect to throw a perfect high kick if you're stiff as a board, or generate real power if you're lacking muscle mass in the right areas. The book also introduces this idea of strength training in the broader sense, or multi-angular training. What's the core concept there?
This principle emphasizes training movements, not just isolated muscles. It's about working your body through a variety of angles and movement patterns that mimic the demands of your specific martial art.
So instead of just doing bicep curls.
Exactly. You might do pulling exercises from different heights and angles to better replicate grappling movements.
Yeah.
This leads to more functional strength, strength that transfers more effectively to your techniques compared to, say, isolated muscle training that might look good but doesn't necessarily help you fight better.
So the key is to train the way you actually move in your art.
Pretty much sums it up.
It all comes back to that idea of training for performance in your specific discipline, not just general fitness. The book also shares a section of hints, tips, and everyday wisdom. What are some of the practical takeaways from that part? Any gems?
Yeah, this section is full of little useful nuggets of advice. It includes tips on how to learn to absorb a blow, likely referring to developing resilience and proper bracing techniques to minimize impact.
Important.
Definitely. There's advice on generating both grappling and striking power through proper body mechanics and technique. It also covers injury prevention strategies, emphasizing warming up, cooling down, listening to your body, usual suspects but important. And finally, it offers practical tips for maximizing the efficiency of your workouts, ensuring you're getting the most out of your training time. These are the kind of small but significant details that can really elevate your training over time.
All those little pieces of practical advice can really add up to big improvements. Then there's the crucial point of tailoring your program to your specific art. How does the book suggest we go about doing that?
The core of this principle is to thoroughly analyze the specific physical demands of your martial art. What are the most common movements? What key physical attributes are really required? For example, a striker might prioritize explosive power and rotational strength.
Where's a grappler?
A grappler might focus more on grip strength and muscular endurance, perhaps. Once you understand these specific needs, you can then select the training methods and exercises from the book that will best support your development in that particular art.
Right.
It's about being strategic and focusing your training where it will have the biggest impact on your actual performance.
So it's about being a student of your own art as well as a student of strength and conditioning. The role of in-class training is also briefly mentioned. How does that fit into the overall picture of your training?
The book really emphasizes that your regular martial arts classes are an absolutely vital part of your development, like non-negotiable.
Sure.
They provide the crucial skill training, the technical refinement, the tactical knowledge that you just can't get from a strength and conditioning program alone. Your supplementary strength and conditioning should be designed to support and enhance your in-class training, making you stronger, faster, more resilient so you can better execute those techniques you learn in class.
So it's a synergistic relationship.
Exactly.
So your time in the dojo or the training hall is still the central pillar, and your strength work is there to make you better at what you do there. Finally, there is a section titled, Whose Fitness? What's the main message there?
The fundamental message is pretty simple. Fitness for martial arts is unique and it's driven by function.
Meaning?
Meaning your fitness goals shouldn't necessarily align with those of a bodybuilder or maybe a marathon runner. The focus should always be on developing the specific physical attributes that will make you a more effective and capable martial artist in your chosen discipline.
Okay.
It's about understanding that your fitness journey is specific to your combat goals.
That's a really important distinction to make. Well, wow, we have covered an incredible amount of information in this deep dive into super strength and endurance for martial arts.
We certainly have.
To quickly summarize, what are some of the key training principles and diverse methods we've explored that our listeners should maybe take away?
Okay, key things. We've seen a really strong emphasis on training for functional strength and endurance that directly enhances your martial arts performance.
Right. Function first.
Yeah, the book advocates for moving away from purely aesthetic goals towards methods that improve combat effectiveness. We've explored a huge array of tools, from kettlebells and Indian clubs to sandbags and cable machines, and how they can build specific attributes. Key principles include that freshness functional training, the Anderson mixing principle for varied strength work, chain training using diverse implements, also the importance of building a solid base of size, flexibility, and training intent.
Right, the foundation.
Multi-angular training focused on movements, not just muscles, and the critical need to tailor your program to the specific demands of your martial art.
It really underscores the idea that becoming a better martial artist involves a really holistic approach, where your strength and conditioning are directly integrated with your technical training.
Absolutely. And this book, offers a wealth of practical ideas and routines to get you started on that path.
So as you continue to train, really consider how you can integrate some of these diverse training methodologies into your own practice. Think about how you can build that truly functional strength and endurance. And definitely consider exploring some of the specific exercises and routines mentioned in the book for practical application. It's all about becoming a more well-rounded, resilient, and effective martial artist.
Well said.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Now, go put this knowledge to good use.